Well, Rania, I know that you've been paying very close attention to, I mean, they're calling it the Gaza Riviera plan of Trump, but this sort of shape-shifting ethnic cleansing plan that, I think a lot of people took as tongue in cheek, but seems to be pretty serious, or at least they're planning for it pretty seriously, to push Palestinians completely and totally out of Gaza and create this new entity. I mean, it's a grotesque situation. I mean, it's hard to even explain it. They've got videos and all these other terrible things. Anyway, where are we now with the Gaza Riviera plan? I know it's been leaked more, and the idea of paying people and all these other things is happening.
So earlier this week, there was this 38-page White House prospectus leaked that the Washington Post was leaked to the Washington Post. The Washington Post published in full. And it's insane. And it kind of builds on these ideas that we've already been hearing about what the Trump administration and the Israelis have planned for Gaza. But it's being framed as this sort of Middle East Riviera. We'll recreate, transform Gaza into this U.S.-controlled Riviera that they're calling it the Gaza Reconstitution Economic Acceleration and Transformation Trust, or the Great Trust. That's what the plan is called, which already sounds so sci-fi and scary. And it outlines this insane proposal that involves turning Gaza into this futuristic tourist and tech hub with AI-powered smart cities and luxurious infrastructure. But it's really just a cover for ultimately ethnically cleansing the population of Gaza through what it calls voluntary departures to another country or into restricted, secured zones inside of Gaza during the reconstruction of this AI-powered city. And by the way, this is what it frames the Gaza Humanitarian Fund, or sorry, the GHF that has been involved in basically killing Palestinians seeking aid. It uses that's essentially what that is. It's the precursor to creating these secured zones inside of Gaza while essentially developing the land for all these other things. And so it would basically offer incentives to the people in Gaza to leave. Anyone who owns land would be offered a digital token, Eugene, by the Great Trust in exchange for the rights to redevelop their property. And then they could use that token to finance a new life somewhere else, where else we don't know. Or eventually it could be redeemed for an apartment in one of the 6 to 8 new AI-powered smart cities. I'm not joking. Each Palestinian who chooses to leave would be given a $5,000 cash payment and subsidies to cover 4 years of rent somewhere else. Again, where else, I don't know. They'd also be given a year's worth of food. I'm not really sure what exactly that means. And also what was really disgusting about this is the plan estimated that every individual departure of a Palestinian from Gaza would save the Great Trust $23,000.
Wow. Compared
with the cost of temporarily housing what it called life support services in the secure zones for those who choose to stay. This proposal is completely insane. Financial planning was done by a team working for Boston Consulting Group. So we already heard from previous reporting by the Financial Times about how Boston Consulting Group was involved in the Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and setting into motion these plans for post-genocide Gaza. And they were involved in this plan as well. It's completely just insane. And again, a cover it's for ethnic cleansing. This U.S. administrated trusteeship, the Great Trust, which Israel would retain security control over. Over time, private contractors and then local police would take over. It's a 38-page document. It has it all planned out and talks about de-radicalizing the Palestinian polity, which is something we'd heard from Israeli plans early on in the genocide, the idea of de-radicalizing the Palestinians. And it emphasizes that this plan would require no U.S. government money because it would be covered through public-private mega project, including highways named after Saudi and UAE leaders.
Wow.
In order to get them to support it, as well as electronic vehicle factories, data centers, again, luxury developments, and on and on and on. So, of course, this has been met with international backlash, as it should be, with many people calling it, a plan for ethnic cleansing and forced displacement, which it is. Human rights groups in numerous nations saying that. The Israeli prime minister, of course, has voiced support for it. He's saying, oh, it's a free choice. It's voluntarily, people can voluntarily leave. We've heard this rhetoric from the Israelis, when they speak in English to the West for a while. Obviously, this is absolutely a massive, disgusting plan to eliminate the Palestinian presence in Gaza, all 2 million people. I mean, that's what it's ultimately about. And I want to actually show some of the slides from this leaked report because of how just completely insane it is. I'm wondering if we can actually put up the first slide, slide 1. There it is. So this is just to show you, this was made by a group of people, including people from Boston Consulting Group, sitting around a table talking about displacing the people of Gaza. It's called The Great Trust, from a demolished Iranian proxy to a prosperous Abrahamic ally. I mean, that language is just completely insane. And then I wanted to show slide 3. And the reason I want to show slide 3 is because it speaks more about the plans here. The goal, it says the goal, a thriving Gaza at the crossroads of a new Abrahamic architecture. And it continues to say under this part called the risk that Gaza is an Iranian outpost in a moderate part of the region that will threaten Abrahamic architecture and undermine any future Palestinian governance. And so this is an opportunity for Gaza to become a regional trade hub at the crossroads of the ancient sea route, Egypt, Gaza, Babylon, and on and on and on, BS, BS, BS. It can thrive once again at the center of pro-American regional architecture. I mean, this language is just insane. And then I'd like to show slide 6. Because slide 6, I mean, there's a lot happening in a lot of these slides. I mean, actually, I really encourage people to go check this out. You can see the entire leaked document, but it's very, very specific. I wanted to show this slide because in this reimagining Gaza 10 mega projects, I mean, one way that these people who are coming up with this scheme, I think, are trying to get the backing of the Gulf states is by, and of also, people with lots of money like Elon Musk, is by naming things after them. The writing might be a bit small to see on screen, but basically it names the potential, the suggested project and then the description of it. So there's a project, for example, called the MBS Ring and MBZ Central Highway. This is, of course, named after the leaders of MBS of Saudi Arabia and MBZ of the United Arab Emirates. And this would be an MBS ring highway and tram around Gaza that would replace a different road and then an MBZ highway crossing the ring. And then it has something called the Elon Musk Smart Manufacturing Zone. And this would be industrial zones along the Gaza-Israel border feeding from and to the Abrahamic gateway through the Gaza Ring. So I just thought that was interesting. Then it also has something called Gaza Trump Riviera and Islands. This would be world-class resorts and the coastline and on small artificial islands similar to the Palm Islands in Dubai. Of course, named after Donald Trump, which is a big dream of his. And then I wanted to show slide 14, and then I'll throw it to you, Eugene. And the region, and again, I really encourage people to go check this out. It's so insane. The reason I wanted to show slide 14 is this is one of a few slides that are specifically about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and the essential role that GHF, and again, GHF is the foundation that is a bunch of mercenaries, that is like basically former U.S. military and U.S. military helping the Israelis at these supposed aid centers where people can come collect aid, essentially shooting, intentionally killing people coming to get aid in Gaza who are starving. And this whole system is set up to basically, I mean, this is like an apocalyptic type situation. So who are you going to send in like a Hunger Games style situation to go get aid? You're going to send the strongest person in your family. So, essentially it's a way to lure the strongest among families in Gaza, usually probably whoever is like the strongest man, so you can kill them as they come collect aid, because these are, potential militants. I mean, that's what that's all about. And so this is one of many slides laying out the essential role that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is playing in these securitized, future securitized zone and this potential, Gaza post-genocide plan. It says GHF will secure aid routes throughout Gaza to prevent interdiction of aid by Hamas. And then it goes on to say that GHF will eventually be folded in to the quote unquote Great Trust to continue to maintain these zones where the people who decide not to leave will live. So anyways, Eugene, this is just so dystopian and absurd and disgusting, and real estate development and capitalism meets AI meets, genocide. And I go ahead. I'm going to throw it to you from there.
No, I mean, listen, I think you said it all. The only thing I would just add is the timing of how this has been accelerating in the news is very interesting, because yesterday, or maybe it's the day before yesterday, Smotrich released his plan for the total annexation of the West Bank, what he called seizing or I don't think he called seizing, but I'm going to call it seizing but this part is a quote, the maximum amount of territory with the minimum amount of population. So, saying that they would take almost all the land and force Palestinians into what they called 5 concentration points that will have their own sort of Israeli overseen civil authorities. So, it's not just a neo-colonial, but a sort of full colonial reality there. You put that alongside the fact that obviously the Israelis are pursuing a plan that's designed to not only expand and occupy larger parts of Syria, but to continue to fragment the nation of Syria. The sort of lesser talked about attempt by the Israelis to fragment Iraq by some of the things that they do messing around there in the politics there. Obviously the ongoing occupation of southern Lebanon, and obviously an attempt to try to put the people of Lebanese people at each other's throats for the benefit of Israel. So we can see that this sort of broader, greater Israel reality is being played out here all across the region, and that this Gaza Riviera plan is really just one more piece of this broader attempt to further solidify the settler colonial project of Egypt, certainly at the expense of the Palestinian people, but certainly the Arab people more broadly, and an attempt to increase the level of suffering, fragmentation, destruction, and chaos in every other part of the region as part of the Israeli strategy to maintain its status as the regional hegemon, which is crucial for the global hegemon, the United States, to be able to maneuver the way it wants to maneuver around the world while still being able to control this critical crossroads. So I thought very, very well summarized there, and it is grotesque and unbelievable. And I would say the people in the Boston Consulting Group are guilty of war crimes for even participating in this. So let's hope that when we're holding people accountable as we continue to move towards accountability, that they are on that list, or at least have to be sweating over it a little bit.
Yeah, it also, I just want to point out, other people have been making this point, and it's true. It's the amount of real estate developers who are just in charge right now, Steve
Tom
Witkoff, Trump special, Tom Barrack, another special envoy by Trump. And then the idea of these, and Trump himself, and then the idea of these using economic zones. This is the language that the Israelis and the Americans keep using. Well, the Americans, I guess, specifically keep using to justify or to give cover to Israel, just creating more and more buffer zones and taking more land. And even last week, we start to hear in Lebanon this notion of economic zone in South Lebanon, where they don't want Lebanese people to ever return, but I guess they can go work as slave labor or something. But yeah, it's disgusting. It's disgusting that there's these people in suits sitting around, big, tables and some, penthouse office and air-conditioned rooms, planning the destruction of an entire people like it's nothing.